Hello everybody! Before we begin, I would like to let you all know that I have a book out. It is called Not Quite Dead, and it is the story of a woman whose fiancé passed away a year ago, having dreams where he tells her that he's still alive and trying to use said dreams to get him back. It is available on Amazon in both paperback and ebook formats, so if you've ever wanted to support me financially, then this is your opportunity to do so. Link is in the description. Hey gang, it's Squill, and today we have an episode that honestly feels like 3 or 4 mashed together. The Cat Who Tipped the Bots is the 4th episode of Fionna and Cake's 2nd season. The cat obviously refers to Cake, and the bots is very clearly the bots that the Cheers cast was in. This episode begins with our second and final Huntress Wizard flashback. I really love the look to this sequence. It feels like a classic storybook illustration. In this sequence, we are introduced to Huntress's adopted parents, 2 humanoid-looking characters. We learn some interesting things about Huntress here, like the fact that she can suck up nutrients through her hands, or the fact that she formed her own mouth. I do like this segment, but, and you're gonna hear me say this a lot in this video, I really just wish it was longer. I wish we got just a little bit more of Huntress bonding with her parents. Because as is, I only find the moment they're killed off to be mildly sad, and not absolutely devastating like I think it should be. Especially given the impact this has on Huntress Wizard, essentially sending her down her lone wolf path. It's not bad, but it's a little underwhelming to me that after all these years we finally get Huntress development, and it's more or less glossed over. Like, imagine how much less impactful the Simon and Betty stuff in Season 1 would be if instead of taking up almost half an episode, it was just 2 really short cold opens. Getting into the episode proper, we begin with our only Gary and Marshall scene of the episode, as the 2 are out shopping. There are some fun jokes in this scene, but really the most significant things that happen here are Marshall getting a phone call from his mom, and the first scene between him and Simone, which essentially amounts to just an awkward head nod. This moment is fine enough in a vacuum, but the more the season goes on, the more it keeps drip-feeding little moments between Marshall and Simone, to the point that by the time the storyline is actually resolved, I just didn't really care about it anymore. It's a bummer, because a Fionna World adaptation of the Simon and Marceline story had a ton of potential. It's one of Adventure Time's best storylines. But this season just completely failed to get me invested in it. Anyways, we hard cut to Fionna, who's still hungover from the previous episode. The scene of her interacting with DJ Slime's radio show is very funny. It is here where she decides she needs DJ Flame to help her save the sweet spot. And totally not, because she's still into him. Meanwhile, our Ugane is preparing the Enchiridion to meet Prismo. But what's interesting here is that despite this being the Farm World Enchiridion, the combination of jewels used here are very different from the ones seen in Crossover. Most notably omitting the Ice Crown Jewel. The only explanation for this I can think of is that the spell used in Crossover is a little bit different from the one used in this episode and the Lich. And the combination seen in the Lich being different makes sense because that's a different Enchiridion altogether. It's just weird that the holes are different shapes. Can they change based on what the Enchiridion is being used for? How does that work? Regardless, it is cool to see the Enchiridion transform like it did back in the Lich. Although I don't see why PB needed this big laser thing in order to break it. All Finn had to do was smash it over his leg. Unfortunately, however, I find Prismo's actual inclusion in this episode to be kind of underwhelming. There is a neat novelty to seeing PB and Marcy in the time room for the first time, even if they're implied to have been there before. And I like this reference to Jesse Moynihan's pickle reviews. But ultimately, the scene itself doesn't amount to anything. Prismo's powers aren't working right now, so he's completely incapable of saving Finn. And the scene is so brief that it's not like we get any cool character moments out of it either, so it just ends up feeling like a waste of time. It makes me wonder why this plan was set up as the big cliffhanger at the end of last episode, only for it to not amount to anything. Gee, it sure would suck if this episode did the exact same thing, huh? Back in Fionna world, we begin Cake's subplot for this episode. I already mentioned it in my review of last episode, but I don't really like how Fiona's mean comment to Cake in that one is just completely dismissed here. I'm not saying it had to be a big conflict, but even just one more scene where the two talk about it would have been nice. Anyways, in this scene, Cake gets a call from the Cheers crew inviting her on the show, to which she agrees. Meanwhile, Huntress is attacked by Hungry Snail, causing her to sprout limbs and suck its nutrients. This mini Huntress angle is a fun idea, but because this is most of what she's doing for the episode, it means that she doesn't really get to interact with Fionna and Cake very much until the end. And even then, said interactions are rather brief, compared to episode 4 of season 1, which did a much better job establishing Simon's dynamic with Fionna and Cake, considering that the trio are together for almost the entire episode. Back in Fiona's storyline, I really like the way these flashbacks between her and Felix are handled, with Fionna remembering these moments as she visits the locations that correspond with them. It does a good job putting us in Fiona's head, helping us understand why she wants Felix back. He's a reminder of a simpler time in Fiona's life, a time before her universe was canonized and she had to deal with the consequences that came with that. It was also really fun getting to see their relationship play out in reverse. Back in present day, Fionna meets up with Hunter and Fennel. This is our first actual scene with Fennel, although we don't really get a ton of characterization from her. And this is fine in theory because I think the idea is that we don't really get to know Fennel until Fionna does. Problem is, by the end of the season, I feel like I still don't really have that strong of a grasp of who Fennel is as a person. But I'll get into that more in later episode reviews. Anyway, Hunter reminds Fionna of the meeting they set up with the Parks Department, which causes Fionna to go home and change. Back at the apartment, Fionna meets up with a little Huntress, leading to all sorts of wacky shenanigans. And said wacky shenanigans are very fun, mind you. It's just a bummer that they come at the expense of actual character interactions between Fionna and Huntress Wizard. Of course, the rest of the season still could have made up for this. Anyways, back anew, we see Simon meet up with Ice Sting to ask him for the demonic wishing eye. There's a ton I love about this scene. It's probably my favorite of the whole episode. I love that Gunter, or Ice Sting, still sees Simon as a dad. I also really like the voice Tom Kenny does for Ice Sting, sounding like a more childlike version of the Ice King. Gunter clearly still remembers how much Simon cared for him as Ice King, and I think that's so damn sweet. Wonder if Gunter tries to act fatherly to the other penguins the way Ice King used to. But anyways, I really like the scene on Simon's end too. I like that he's still very clearly uncomfortable with seeing this reflection of his old self, but still wants to be supportive of him. Also nice to get a Turtle Princess cameo, glad their marriage is still going well. As much as I love this scene, however, it's just another aspect of the episode that I wish we got more of. I get why this scene is so short here. It's not really relevant to anything else going on this season. It's just another one of those things that makes me wish the Fionna World side of the season and the Ooh side of the season were two different shows entirely. Because this episode only barely gets to scratch the surface of Simon's dynamic with Ice Sting. I think there's enough there for at least a full subplot, if not just a full episode. Back in Cake's subplot, she enters the Cheers studio to find that the entire cast of the show is tiny. A very funny revelation, in my opinion. It's just a very silly idea that works really well for me. I wonder if this is how Simon thought TV worked as a kid. I also like what it adds to Cake's arc, being used as a gimmick instead of treated like an actual person. There is something really sad about seeing her realize she's being exploited, and I like her cat-like instincts briefly coming back. Back with Fionna, we see her shopping with Little Huntress Wizard when we meet Breakfast Prince. He's got a fun design, and his interactions with Fionna are all very funny, especially after Huntress grows back to full size. Speaking of which, Huntress immediately makes a mad dash for the heart of the forest, with Fionna and Cake following closely behind. As I said before, Huntress grows back to her normal self so late into the episode that we barely get any time for her to interact with Fionna and Cake at all, and what we do get isn't very substantial. I do, however, really like the phone call between Huntress and PB. Hynden Walsh is once again giving a killer performance here, and I love seeing PB call Huntress Wizard out for being so secretive. I really wish the show got to explore the dynamic between Huntress and PB a bit more. It's been a while since the show has really done anything with PB's anti-magic side. The ooh side of this episode ends on yet another cliffhanger as Simon holds the demonic wishing eye. This scene is really weird on rewatch, because it's framed as if Simon is keeping this a secret from PB and Marcy. When I was first watching this episode, I thought we were doing a storyline in which Simon relapses by using magic to sacrifice himself again, seeing as the eye takes a piece of your soul every time you use it. But then in the next episode, Simon just uses it with no drama whatsoever. It's really weird. Truthfully, I don't know how I would have felt about a Simon relapsing arc. I just don't really get the intent behind the scene if it wasn't setting that up. Makes me wonder if this was a cut storyline or something. Back in Fionna world, after Huntress crashes out, Fionna runs into DJ Flame. This scene mostly serves to set up their meeting next episode, as well as show that Fionna is clearly still into him. We also get one last Fionna and Hunter interaction before the episode ends. I really like how frustrated Hunter seems here. It's a good early example of Fiona's actions alienating the people around her. It's also good foreshadowing to what we learn about Hunter a few episodes from now. Love this moment just being immediately followed by Fionna realizing she's been evicted. Very funny. And that was The Cat Who Tipped the Bots, an episode I overall like, but consider one of the weaker episodes of the season. There's a lot of fun to be had in this one, it's just way overstuffed in my opinion. A lot of great ideas that just don't have the time to be fully elaborated upon. It's one of the episodes that suffers the most from the overall pacing of the season, in my opinion. But please let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments, and I'll see you all next time for The Butterfly and the River. Have a good one, and Squill out.